Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to start this meeting of the Sumner County Board of Education for March the 23rd, 2021. Before we do, I'm going to stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to our country's flag. Anyone who would like to join me, please feel free to do so. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I got the short seat again this month. So if y'all can't see me, it's not my fault. I'm taller than this. All right, first item on the agenda is adoption of the regular agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Mr. Wise, second by Mr. Daniels. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Ms. Hayes, second by, I missed you, Ms. Hayes. Second by, who second?
I'll do
Mr.
that.
Wise. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, consideration of minutes, discussion and interaction regarding the minutes of the February 23rd, 2021 regular meeting. Is there a motion?
Approve.
Motion approved by Ms. Wise, second by Ms. Hayes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item, discussion and interaction regarding the minutes of the March 4th, 2021 special call
Motion
meeting.
to approve.
Motion approved by Mr. Daniels, second by Mr. Wise. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is recognition and hearing of delegations. It is my honor and privilege tonight to introduce to y'all, and we're just tickled to death to have them, Senator Farrell Hale, State Representative Johnny Garrett, and State Representative William Lambert. So y'all come on down.
Over there, and that way it'll be on video. There you go.
There we go, we're on. It's an honor to be here tonight. Appreciate the opportunity to come before you. Terry Lynn Weaver sends her regret. She got tied up in committee tonight and was unable to be here. Of course, William's with me and Johnny's with me. And we all have a proclamation that we signed from both houses, the General Assembly. And this is it's a joint resolution for you guys. It's an honor, it's recognizing you. And I'm going to read some of this. I don't always read these, but I'm going to read a little bit of it. Whereas the Sumner County Board of Education was recently named the 2020 School Board of the Year. Congratulations. That's great. By the Tennessee School Board Association, an honor that recognizes the board's many contributions toward the pursuit of educational excellence in Sumner County. There's several whereases through here. Now, you can hang this on the wall and look at it, but there's a couple of them that I want to point out. One of them, whereas the Sumner County Board has worked with the Sumner County Commission to fund an annual $4,000 salary increase for all certified staff, the construction of a $118 million high school and elementary school campus, and a $73 million district-wide building renovation program for additions and renovations at 27 schools, thereby eliminating 70 portals. That's a great achievement, and we just want to recognize that. I also want to note what you've done through the COVID-19. You have really been a leader throughout this state, and folks have looked to you for what you've done. We just appreciate that. Also, you boast of 6 STEM designated schools, 10 more undergoing certification, and 2 schools been designated Blue Ribbon schools since 2015. Just great success there. Whereas Sumner County students achieve a district ACT of 21.4, it'd be nice if it's 24, 21.4, in the class of 2019 earned more than $75 million in scholarships. And it lists each of you on this proclamation. Your names are listed on this. We go into the record both on the House of Representatives and the Senate in Tennessee. So it's resolved by the 112th General Assembly that we honor you. This is signed by Governor Bill Lee, by Speaker of the Senate, Randy McNally, and Speaker of the House of Representatives Sexton, Speaker Sexton, for William and Johnny and Terry Lynn and myself, and we congratulate you and say thank you. And I'm going to have to suffocate in this meeting.
Here's to y'all. Thank you, Senator. We sure appreciate that.
If the senator says we can take them off.
Hey, look, we're at y'all's playground. Whatever y'all want to do. We'll hold our breath in the picture. That's all right.
Y'all can make the proclamation.
Hey, no, thank y'all. Look, y'all been rocking. Y'all get in the middle. We going outside. Y'all get in the middle here. This for y'all.
Chairman, get around this whole.
William, y'all get in the middle.
Where you want me to say? Won't you get in the middle with me? Oh, you look for representative. Senator Taylor, you look kind of big around, so how's that?
I'm squeezing back. Y'all this for y'all. Wherever you want to be, man. This for you.
Are we gonna do mask or no mask?
No mask.
Senator says no mask.
Oh my God, right here. Oh my gosh, one of you has when you say COVID. Since I don't see that. Is it
upside down? Well, he's not level-headed, so.
Kind of matching my thoughts.
Proclamation routine. Everybody smile. And now she's gonna take a couple. Everybody go where you are.
Thank you.
All right. Congratulations, y'all.
We'll take care of that.
Gotta keep this up.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
I'll hand it off, Andy, so we don't mess it up.
Thank you all. Oh, good.
Thank you, Johnny.
Appreciate you doing that. Oh, gosh, you will. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you. That's awesome. Appreciate y'all very much.
Oh, yeah?
Oh,
cool. Cool, man. Thanks for letting me know.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I look good with there, that's scary.
It'll look like the Ark of the Covenant is in here. Hey, you gotta give him a goal to hit. Oh, we'll find a good spot where it's shining.
Hey, where was we? That's good stuff, folks. That's really, really good stuff. Really, they're really nice. We don't have any matters involving council, I don't guess, do we?
No, sir.
Okay, good deal. We move on past that. Next item on the agenda is a report from the director, Dr. Phillips.
Yes, sir. Have two reports this evening. Dr. Alexander is going to start. He's going to talk to us about our educator prep program. We're excited about that and what that's going to do for us here in the system. And so I'll turn it over, the first part, to Dr. Alexander.
There we go. All right, you should all have either a green or an orange folder in front of you that has some information for you. And I'll get us going here. So I moved up to the central office about 3 years ago, and had an opportunity to work as an instructional coordinator. During that time, I got to work with our HR team in recruiting new teachers, and really kind of developed a passion for bringing in that new group of new service teachers and working with them. And through that process, this was at a Tennessee Lead Conference about 2 years ago. Naomi and Marla and myself were in a Grow Your Own session there, and they mentioned the idea of an educator prep program being run by a county school system. And at the time, no one had done that. It was a new offering from the Tennessee Department of Education. We took a good bit of notes and started to dig in on that and what that would look like and what we could do. Since then, Rutherford County was almost there that day 2 years ago, and since then they are the only one in the state that has this program. So we are aiming to be the second of those programs in the state of Tennessee, where we can step into hard to fill positions and license our own teachers. So I'm going to walk you through kind of what that program looks like tonight and just give you a really basic overview with some of these documents. So in October, I had the opportunity, Dr. Phillips and Naomi gave me the opportunity to move full-time over into HR and start working on this project full-time. Since then, I've been working on the application for the state, so to give you an update there, our due date for that is April 6th. We are well on our way to meeting that deadline. We are through 10 INTAS standards. I'm not going to bore you with all that, but we're through 3 of the 5 CAPE standards, and we're well on our way to submit that on time and be ready for approval when the state looks at our application. During that time, I've had the opportunity to work with the entire HR team. They've taught me some HR lessons that I didn't know coming down there. So it's been good to learn some new things there and to really dig into this application process. So if you look on the blue sheet that kind of leads off your folder, you'll see the steering committee for the educator prep program here in Sumner County. I'm not going to go through all the names. I will mention one because she happens to be here tonight and is one of our lead educators. Emily Goddard is sitting out here with us, so she's going to join this particular group as we move through. And you'll notice that Chase Moore is also on this group, and there's a reason that Chase is there because we're starting our licensure track with his group. So what we are aiming to start with first is the group of occupational licensing. So there's a list on that yellow page behind this light blue that lists all of the occupational endorsements that we would be able to certify and license to teach. So I'll let you look through that. I'm not going to read those. Then I have the highlights down here for you. The program we're proposing for our EPP is a 2-year program, so it's a 24-month program. I've given you kind of an overview draft look at that on the dark blue paper and how that program would lay out. Essentially, in the first year, you would get an intensive 5-day kind of boot camp feel for these new teachers before school starts. And we'll throw as much as we can at them before school starts, and then after school starts, it'll be one night a month. And one night a month will continue during that first year until we get to the end of that school year, and then they have another 5-day session right as school lets out, and it's more of a reflective session on what they've just been through in their first year of teaching. So then they'll go through the second year. The second year will look much the same. And at the end of that second year, we will be able to license them as a teacher in Tennessee. Now, the cool part for the educator and the cool part for us, they get this free of charge, and they sign an agreement with us, and Dr. Phillips is still working on what that might look like, but they'll work here in Sumner County to kind of balance that debt, so to speak. So they'll agree to work with us for a certain amount of time. We will provide their license in the process. And so then the very last part of this first blue page it talks about a phasing approach. So phase 1 is that occupational piece with all of those different licenses. Phase 2 is the academic side of CTE. So that would get all of our CTE courses to where we could license teachers to teach those courses. And then phase 3, kind of beyond, would be looking at our needs and addressing them kind of one by one. The way the EPP works, and this works the same as any college or university in the state of Tennessee, once you get the ability to license a teacher, then you can apply for any program that you want to add. So if we want to license math teachers, we would apply for a math track. Science teachers, a science track. So all of those things open up to us once we get this. The reason that we started with occupational CTE, one is because the number of endorsements that it covers. Two, they are hard to fill positions. And three, this is a program that the state has an approved curriculum for. I gave you that insert it's in the back. It's the one that looks like a brochure, Teaching to Lead. It's from the Southern Regional Education Board. And their program is approved by the state and kind of helps you on your way to gaining that application approval for your initial EPP. So that's another reason we've chosen to start with that occupational piece. No, I've already thrown a lot at you, so I'll take just a second here. I also included a little license for you in the back, so enjoy that. All of you are certified now in something else according to us, but your names are a little wonky on there because that's the only thing that differentiates it from being an actual license. So, but we'll be able to do that. We're excited about this opportunity. We're excited to and have already started a partnership with the Rutherford County EPP and kind of learning what they've learned in their process. I've been communicating with their folks and they're kind of vetting our application as I write because I'd like to turn it in and get approved and not have to do 5-6 rewrites. I'd like to be able to hit the ground running. Any questions from you guys? Yes, ma'am?
What about, are they gonna be on the same salary scale as a teacher?
It would work as a job embedded placement, so they are on the same certified scale.
All right, what about, is there a program? The one thing I noticed I didn't see in here was, essentially it's continuing education. Like we have summer things that you have to do as a teacher to keep
So
up
this would be
with
separate from professional development or professional learning. This is a separate piece because this is
But
tied.
you would have one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you would still be required to do all of those things as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Hey, Ms. Brown. Anybody else?
Ms. Hayes.
All right.
Ms. Hayes.
Oh, Ms. Hayes, I'm sorry. I didn't see your light down there.
Thank you, Chairman Brewer. Justin, where's the funding come from?
So the funding from this is essentially the curriculum. And everything else we've already worked in, and we've worked with Dr. Phillips this year to get a running start on that curriculum. And that money has been moved and ready to go for that. And it's a minimal cost for the bang for your buck that you get on a year-to-year basis.
Yeah, so, the front end load of the curriculum is
Not that expensive. You have to use their curriculum to be able to do the program and submit the application. So, for us, it's more about what we can gain by doing it ourselves versus having to have future teachers that want to teach, especially CTE, go through the gauntlet of going to TDOE and then going to a university and then trying to figure out how to take 18 hours of classroom stuff they've never had in education. And oftentimes, even with good candidates, once you get to that point, I think I'm safe to say they're gone. It's easier to go back to industry and not worry about teaching, even though they maybe really want to do that. So for us, it's just the way of the future to be able to have really high quality, not only CTE, but hopefully in phase 2 and 3, hard to fill spots like math and science and things that we really, like every other school system, demand is high and supply is low. And so we're always out there trying to find those people. I think this gives us obviously an advantage, which is what we always want out in the job market, is to have an advantage. That's the same way our pay and our benefits are all geared that way. So this is a great thing. It's a very minimal cost for us to do this. We're fortunate, Justin, Marla, Naomi, everybody that's worked on this has done a really good job, and we're excited. I think first cohort groups this summer, right, Justin?
That's our goal. That's our aim. Let's
So
get
hopefully-
them rolling.
Hopefully, we'll have this summer. We'll have some folks in here taking advantage of this that will be in our classrooms in August. That possibly without this would not have been teaching anywhere in August, and certainly it'll be in these. The yellow sheet will be the one that we start with first.
Ms. Hawkins?
I just want to slow this down to make sure I'm understanding what it's. This would be someone who, for example, has knowledge in culinary arts, but no experience at all in teaching.
Correct. So they're going to have field experience that meets the requirements of TDOE,
Mm-hmm.
and then we will provide them their educator prep program.
So then they would be qualified to be in the classroom teaching high schoolers in this case.
Yes, ma'am.
And that, okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood the process.
You're
there.
right on it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins. Mr. Duncan?
I've had lots of conversation with fellow engineers that have spent a lifetime in that career and the pressure, and they get to the mid-50s and they think, you know, I'd like to do that. And most of them have been turned off by the fact that they have to go back to school, and they have, it's just very burdensome. But yet these people are extremely knowledgeable about innumerable things. So this kind of program is going to show its light very quickly, and it's a monumental task, and I can't thank you enough for taking it on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. Anyone else? Yeah,
So
Ms. Naomi.
Mr. Duncan hit it right on the head. These folks that are going to be coming in, one of the things that we've learned on our classified side with Robin Brewer is that we have tons of people, employees out there that have educations. They just don't have an education, a license to teach. And so what we're planning on doing, for example, welding. We do have a teacher that left because he wasn't licensed to teach welding, but he had 20 plus years of experience. And so this is what Justin and Marla and I have been working on is, you know, let's get these folks in there. They're super knowledgeable. They have tons of information to pass on to these students. And we're starting with the CTE because it's hard to fill, because it's the easier of the application, and we felt like we needed to start somewhere. But the whole point of this is to get people in who have an education, whether it be welding or agri-science or plumbing or whatever, and we're essentially just teaching them how to teach. That's what we're doing. And so at that point, that's when Justin, and he's been critical to making sure, he and Marla have been fantastic, making sure that this program is taking off. He's done countless hours, and I've probably bugged the mess out of him, but the objective is to get down to math, science, special ed. Those are the main ones that in 5 years it's going to make us successful. Just 1 or 2 going through this time, or 3 or 6, however many we go through. The main objective is to get to those ones where there's a shortage statewide. And so that's the objective, is this is a small piece of a very big puzzle that we're trying to put together.
Thank you, Ms. Naomi. Mr. Wise.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see this as another activity taken on by our leadership team in our school system to improve Sumner County schools, with the eye on the end result, and that being what's best for students. And I appreciate that. Please know it is greatly, greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Ms. Wise. Ms. Hawkins?
Yes, I probably know the answer to this already, but I'm just going to ask. This meets all the requirements for Tennessee School Board Association as far as liability and putting people in the classroom who are not the
Yes, it won't require any additional waiver, any additional permit. They will go in as a licensed teacher.
My goodness, that's going to pull on a whole new set of of people. What a great idea.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins. Ms. Hayes?
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. I just appreciate that the proactiveness of this group to see the need before we're in a really crunch time. We're already recognizing that there's just a shortage statewide, so we're doing something on the front end of this. Where are you recruiting these to come in? How are you getting the word out to this, like the first group, but how are you going to continue to get this word out to the engineers, to the welders, to the...
We'll work on that part, but you would be surprised how many principals have 5 or 6 folks in their back pocket that if they could get them licensed, they'd be in their building. So that'll be our first targets.
Okay.
And I mean, we're looking at a small group for this first run of no more than 15. So we want to do it right if we're going to do it. And so we're looking to keep that small. So that'll be our first go-to. But then we'll push out from there to recruit some more in.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hayes. Mr. Wilkerson?
So do we currently have anybody teaching that is not licensed in these categories?
We have folks that are in educator prep programs elsewhere, so they're putting out their own money to get certified to teach. How many have we had this year that have kind of fallen out of programs and we're trying to reshuffle? At least 2 or 3?
Yeah.
And if we had this as an option, that wouldn't even be a concern.
So they can just move into this where they're at, or they start all over?
It kind of depends on where they are in their program. They have 3 years, am I saying that right, Marla? 3 years to get that license finished. So if they, in theory, if they had only taken 1 year in their current program, yes, they could transition into ours and finish in time to get their full license.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkerson. Mr. Wise?
I just got one last thing to say about it. None of you can quit or retire until my last grandchild graduates high school, and he's in the first grade.
Anybody else got any questions for Dr. Alexander? Seeing none, I just want to add one word to the list of adjectives positive adjectives that we use for all you folks, and that's innovative. This very innovative program that you've come up with, and gosh, y'all just doing a great job. We appreciate it, sure do. Be no other questions for Dr. Alexander? You want to move along, I guess?
Thanks, Justin.
Great job.
Next, I think Scott.
You leading this one or Christy? Christy, okay. Christy Wall.
Before Christy starts, and I'm sure she's going to explain this, but
I think we've talked a little bit about ESSER. ESSER is just an acronym for any of the funds that come from the federal government related to COVID or CARES Act money. So you've heard a little bit about the state putting in some dollars for some summer learning loss that will be coming. And then on top of that, you have some federal funds that have been appropriated in really I think 3 batches now. And the latest 3.0 was just the week we left for spring break, I think. So you'll be continually hearing about plans for those funds over the next 6 months, year, with activities and things that we're doing. Christy's going to talk to you a little bit about the plan that we've already developed for the first 2 rounds that we are submitting to the state, okay? That's what she'll do.
Thank you. All right, school board members, just a quick briefing over ESSER 2.0. As Dr. Phillips mentioned, ESSER 1.0 was talked about and touched on back in early July when we did school reentry and reopening plans. And so those funds that were early on and issued were concentrated and focused on reopening schools safely, which we feel like we've done a decent job of, to say the least. And so the focus for tonight's presentation and information we wanted to share with you focuses on ESSER 2.0. So this is the second phase of federal funding and stimulus, emergency stimulus to support elementary and secondary schools in the public school sector. So a couple of things that we wanted to talk through. Can you see the presentation on your screens? Are we all good? Okay, good. Thank you, technology. So in essence, kind of a theme that we've taken on as we plan through the second round of funds. As Dr. Phillips mentioned, the state is reviewing our application. So the funds are planned for. It's not finalized. We're waiting to hear back from TDOE and their response to our plans. But the focus behind this is kind of redesigning how we help students learn and grow. We know that it's been a trying time and a really interesting year. I think each time that I've presented something to you all, we've talked about how much we've learned along the way, that these are very unique circumstances, very unusual times, but you know, we have come to kind of lean into the fact that when circumstances are different, we've got to respond differently, which calls us to be innovative and try to think kind of outside the box in terms of really analyzing some of the things that we currently do and ask ourselves why we do that and ensure that there's not a better way or a different way to approach educating kids. So if we go to the next slide. About a year ago this time, we were all kind of starting to ask ourselves a whole lot of questions. Some learning lessons that were quickly captured was figuring out Zoom. That's been a milestone for several of us. Now is like second nature because we've done it for an entire year. Managing schedules and educating kids virtually. A picture of my own too at the kitchen countertop when they were working on some schoolwork last spring. I took that picture while I was on my own Zoom while we were trying to figure something out instructionally, you know, trying to balance all of the things that were going on last spring. I think the phrase constantly came up, this can't be our reality. Like, this can't be real. We're really not doing this. But we did it, and we've done it over the course of the year, and we've learned a couple major takeaways. We have to work together. We can't do this alone. Silos have to dissipate. We have to get really lean and really simple. Complex systems don't work in complex situations. And we also have to communicate really, really well. And so those three things we feel like have kind of carried us over the course of this past year. We've really tried to internalize those as we've planned for these funds. Again, like we talked about, ESSER 1 focused on reopening schools safely. ESSER 2, we've got some things to kind of fill in the gaps and help support students in some very meaningful and different ways. And then we'll talk about ESSER 3 when it's time to talk about ESSER 3, but now's not the time for that quite yet. So I wanted to talk first about the planning team. I know that there are a lot of kind of internal jokes about like these teams and these committees and all of these vested participants, but I do want to just kind of uphold the fact that the information and the things that I present tonight are the culmination of work that's gone on by some really fabulous people. We have been meeting every Monday afternoon since the middle of January to plan for these funds and ask some really hard questions and sharpen our pencils and make some things work budgetarily and put some things on hold budgetarily. And so, great work going on and participation in our committee and planning efforts from Amanda and Rhonda from her team. It's great to plan with them. They know all the ins and outs and all the red tape to be aware of. Also with Norma and Pupil Services, Karen and Kevin from her team have been a part of our mega committee is what we called it. Chris from technology, obviously Andy with facilities concerns and protocols. Mary Jo and Katie from Safe Schools have been absolutely instrumental in some of the planning and the priorities that we've articulated. And then obviously the instruction team, Frankie, Kyle, Jean, Jeff, Phillip, and Scott. And then also Dr. Phillips has been a major part in trusting us to plan well and walk out this plan. So when we talk about teams, obviously we're all part of this team in some varying capacity. I love this quote by Michael Jordan. Ironically enough, when the series came out last spring, when we were all socially distanced and at home, it's great that this comes back up. But talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships. We are winning championships for kids this year, and we're committed to that. We've been committed since the beginning. We'll be committed at this point next year and in every single year to come. So I think that that's important to just honor the fact that this collective team has been put together. You all have entrusted us to work together and find the best possible solutions for kids. So in that vein, as we talk about ESSER 2.0, we kind of categorized the expenditures by who it's going to impact. So these plans, for budgetary sake, will impact students. We'll talk about them first. They're the most important. Then we'll talk about teachers and parents, because the funds that we have through ESSER 2 will impact each of these three different groups very differently, okay? We also kind of plan with the mantra of every number has a name and every name has a purpose. That's something that I kind of hold pretty dear in my heart, just simply because when we're talking about 30,000 kids, it's easy to get lost in 30,000 kids. But we each know those individual kiddos that represent or are a part of that whole. So when we talk about support for students with the ESSER 2.0 funds, these are items and materials and things that we plan to use the funds for to purchase and support students. First item, geodes. There's a picture of them up on the slide on your screen. Here's a sample, a very small sample. These come in boxes for classroom sets for kindergarten, first and second grade. They're very expensive, but they're very good. This is a missing link in connecting our foundational literacy and our wit and wisdom curriculum. Every single elementary principal has asked and begged for geodes. They don't know that they're getting them yet. They get to find out tomorrow, okay? If you guys want to pass those along, just to look at them. They're decodable readers. They're for students. Text in hand, they're different levels. They support the evolution of learning how to read for young students, okay? So that's the connection between foundations and wit and wisdom. Speaking of foundations for grade 3. Right now, we have foundations in kindergarten, first and second grade. We are adding third grade because of the benefits we've seen with our younger students. Also, we're anticipating those learning gaps. We want to make sure we stretch up one more grade level to catch that extra year of students with their foundational literacy skills. Some other things on the list that support students specifically. Go Noodle was a district subscription that we have planned for. It's a brain break activity, and also getting students to practice some mindfulness and get them to have breaks during instruction. You can get up, kind of get the wiggles out. It's predominantly geared for elementary students, but Katie and her team had recommended that, and I thought that would be a great fit for our elementary students. Also, social workers. Again, coming out of the Office of Healthy and Safe Schools, there is a need for additional social workers to work with our students. The plan is to hire 4, and Katie and her team already have some very strategic plans around where we're seeing crisis of students that need help. And so we need a bit more manpower to adequately support the needs, social and emotional needs of our students. We know that after being, in quarantine and safe at home for so long, there are some social ramifications of kind of reemerging and being back into the normal flow of school. And so having a few more sets of hands to go around will tremendously help the Healthy and Safe Schools team and our schools. Also, we're looking at middle school math curriculum. We know that there are some significant needs in middle school math. There is not a curriculum in place in middle school math currently, and so we have identified a couple of options for curriculum, but we're just starting to tiptoe into what that might look like. But again, kind of planning for that purchase a bit further down the road. Also, online security with students learning online and in their Google accounts or Sumner K-12 accounts, just ensuring that there's kind of a protective eye to make sure that our students are safe online. The technology department, Chris and Jean and others, have worked really tirelessly to ensure that our kids are safe while they're online and while they're in our Sumner K-12 domain. Also, some intervention tools and supports for English and math for all students. We found that where there are common materials and things for students to work on, it's a bit easier to support and ensure that our kids are picking up speed and momentum in their learning. Also, again, coming in from Katie and the Safe Schools team, school care teams. Operating in tandem with our social workers, but having each school have a school care team where they watch for students in need, whether it's through attendance markings, habitually absent or truant, whether it's a decline in grades, just noticing where kids might need additional support. So school care teams will be assembled by school personnel and be utilized to support students holistically, okay? Also, plans for high school ELA and the continuation of Wit and Wisdom will also reach into grades 9 through 12 next year. And part of those purchases will come from ESSER funding. So those are all some supports that are planned for students. Let's go ahead and go forward and look at the supports for parents. I will say that this is an area that we have really learned the most in terms of how to engage with parents, how to solicit feedback, and really field some input about what they're seeing at home and what they're experiencing at home. And so when we're talking about support for parents, there are a couple things that we put in place already that are in existence that we're using that will continue on. So POSSEP, I believe there is a flyer at each of your seats. Jean was kind enough to put that together. We are still surveying parents once a month and asking for input and feedback. Each survey kind of has a bit of a different focus, but it's really insightful, not only at the district level, but also at the school level, to really kind of get a pulse check and a gauge on what's going on in our buildings. From the parents' perspective, how are things going? They see and know what goes on at home, and they're so vital to communicate back and kind of close that loop of communication. So POSSEP will be the survey tool that we'll continue to use with parents. Also, the Remind app. The Remind app was a district purchase that teachers use to communicate back and forth with parents at the classroom level. We found back in the spring that when some teachers would email and then others would use Class Dojo and then others would use Remind and then others would email, others would text, others would call. If you had multiple kids in your household, you could get like 17 different forms of communication. It was all very cumbersome and super confusing. Very easy to get one kid mixed up with the other and the teachers mismatched. Anyways, so we have gotten some really good feedback around our teachers' use of Remind to communicate with parents, and that our parents are being communicated with more frequently with just using the one platform. And so that comes to parents. Teachers can use it. They've been using it. That comes in the form of a text message and an email. Very efficient, very user-friendly. We also have plans to add a dedicated position that encompasses student growth and parent communication. We know that parents need to be well educated and well informed around where their students are at and linking them with resources that we have to kind of formalize and strengthen the partnership between school and home, okay? So there are plans for a position to be added there. Also, the use of Parent TV. Katie has been a big proponent of Parent TV as a resource shared to parents about student-centered topics. And so it's online. It's done about once every month or every other month. And so we'll continue to use that just because of the volume of parents that are accessing Parent TV over certain issues like, cyberbullying or internet safety and different things like that, that parents are trying to learn about and be educated about to support their kids at home as well. Okay? Moving ahead to teacher support. These are some items that are prioritized for teacher support. You see lead educators for high schools on there. Right now, our high schools need instructional support, and we have plans to go one-to-one for the high school. So one lead educator to every high school. Right now, we have 3 high school lead educators that serve 9 high schools. Okay, so that's our area of need where we've needed additional instructional support, so we're looking at adding to that team. Also, technology and surveying the teachers and working through Sumner Connect and under Jean's leadership, there is a plan for an order of about 1,500 laptops for teachers. In surveying the teachers, we've realized that only about 700 of them have school-issued laptops that have audio and camera capacities along with adapters. And so in terms of our teachers being mobile with their technology and being able to conference with students and have Zooms, we need to go ahead and add devices to our accessibility for teachers. Also, you can see that there are some professional learning supports to help students and curriculum support that we plan on purchasing. Also, excuse me, for Norma's team, adding a math consulting teacher to assist with math intervention in the special education realm is also planned for. So these are just a few kind of brief highlights for supports for teachers, and so those are the plans in working with teachers going forward. So I want you to look at this slide. Obviously, it's pretty short, no words. But both pictures are true realities. So the New York Times Magazine was posted. This is an actual picture of a front cover of the magazine for the September 2020 edition. The picture next to it was posted today to our Twitter account from Rutgers Stewart Middle School of students earning awards from the Ron Clark Academy and being acknowledged for how well they did in their competitions. So when we talk about teaming and we talk about investments and really sewing into a student-centered budget, which is what we put together and what we've strived for, there is an absolute stark difference in what kids can experience this year. We've safely reopened schools, thank goodness. We've maintained a pretty regular routine schedule to the best of our ability, thank goodness. We will continue to address learning gaps and get kids kind of caught back up where they've been missing either socially, emotionally, or academically. And then we'll continue to plan and strive and go forward and be resilient and innovative all along the way. So I'm so proud of these kids. I love being able to grab this picture off Twitter because I was like, oh, this is perfect. Like, this is so timely, because when I saw the picture of the lost year, I'm going to tell you, Sumner County kids will not have a lost year. And it's all due to wonderful leadership, the trust and the confidence, and the teamwork that's been exemplary in making sure that whatever we do, we're doing it to the best of our abilities and using our resources wisely. Are there any questions regarding ESSER 2.0?
Ms. Hayes.
Yes, Ms. Ball. Thank you, Chairman Brewer. Like the 4 social workers and the SPED math teacher, and there might have been some other, these are going to be positions that we are going to hire. And I know these dollars are not going to probably reoccur every year, so are we going to plan to support those 4 more social workers? We have 4.
Yeah. One rule that I have, anything that we spend in dollars allocated either through a grant or through money funds like this, everyone that plans, one of the first things they realize is my rule is if you put somebody in a position, we're going to have a strategy to keep that position. If it's important to do during ESSER, it's going to be important for us to do after. So lead educators, math consulting teacher, social workers, we already have, because of your support, we already have social workers through Katie. So we're going to add to those every year in the normal budget process anyway. Does that make sense? So we're just going to do that early with ESSER funds and then plan to keep those folks working once ESSER ends. Does that make sense? So, yeah, one of the rules, if we hire people into positions, we will have a strategy to budget for those positions once ESSER ends. Funds end, we'll keep those positions there. Now, that's if we believe that they will obviously add benefit and value. If we find out that we need to make some tweaks and do something different before we get to that point 4 years down the road, we'll do that.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Mr. Wise.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I'm seeing, and this is another example of it, if there's any good thing about COVID that will come out of COVID, is that, have you noticed how much attention, even nationally, our schools now get? 5 years ago, schools were little more than an afterthought. And now, there's rarely a day goes by that school is not mentioned nationally, locally, whatever. And I think that is going to wind up being a good thing for our children, and that's our bottom line, is what's best for our children. And I commend you all, once again, we're commending our leadership being able to look ahead, know there are going to be roadblocks, there are going to be bumps in the road. It's going to be difficult. It's going to put us outside our comfort zone. But I see a lot more communication and awareness from parents concerning their child's school. A lot more. Because even grandparents are a lot more aware of their grandchild's, believe me, it's been tough, of their grandchildren's school. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Dr. Phillips.
I just wanted to say the work that's been done to get to this point, with all the granular details of all of those big high-level things that Christy just went through, there's a ton of work that's gone into the plan, vetting it to make sure that it's the right thing to do. The ultimate benefit, obviously, to support teachers and student outcomes. But all of the people that Christy mentioned earlier that had a part in this did a tremendous job. I say it all the time, but the reason that we are always able to kind of rise to the top because of our people, and all the way through the system. And many folks had their hand and time involved in making this plan, and they present to me. I feel really good about it. I know that it's going to benefit our teachers and students.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. Anyone else got a question for Ms. Wall? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Wall. Fantastic. We really appreciate you and all the people that's involved with it. Well, we do have one more statement. Ms. Brown.
I did like the fact that you based it on what the teachers are asking for, which is very important because they're in the classroom, they know what they need. And I know some of these things are kind of designated to fill in some time because this kid's here and that one's there. That's all right. I mean, that's good use of time when they can use some of these resources. I am going to speak tonight later on the subject of we need to watch what these things that are going to our students are saying. I don't think any reading material should be put out in the classroom without the teachers being aware of what's being said in the books they're getting. Because there's an erroneous statement in the one on voting. They also left out something that was very important in voting. I'm an old history teacher. But, you know, I think we need to do that too, which really in your field, it's more Scottsville.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Anyone else? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Wall. Fantastic job. We really appreciate you and all the people that's working with you. And
Good job.
just fantastic. Next item, is that all for?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that ends our reports from the director. Our new business is discussion and action regarding bids for the Liberty Creek Sewer Extension. Is there a motion? Motion approved by Mr. Duncan, second by Ms. Hayes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, unfinished business, discussion and action regarding amendments to the general purpose budget. Is there a motion? Motion approved by Ms., what's your name again? Ms. Bachman? Second by Mr. Gregory. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, discussion and action regarding amendments to the federal budget. Is there a motion approved?
Approved.
Motion approved by Mr. Wilkerson, second by Ms. Hayes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is discussion of study session items. Mr. Johnson.
So we believe that we will be resuming our continuing journey through the policy manual at the next study session. We still have section, I think we're down to section 5 and then we're done. So we should be bringing it to a close pretty soon. We also will have our auditors here to report on the audit. So riveting.
Okay. I knew it was about time for that. Study session item, Ms. Brown.
This is gonna, I'm sure, not be a popular item, but I've been thinking about, I remember when I went back and did a classroom as an interim after I had retired, and I was appalled at something I saw in a textbook that I personally knew wasn't true because I was living when, what they put in the history book now, I've lived part of it. And so I knew it wasn't true. And trying to, speak to the kids when it's in print is a hard thing to do because they think anything in print is a fact. And like we used to feel about the newspapers. What I would like to know is how our students, how our teachers, students, whatever, how we know what information is not going. Like the voting thing that just got passed around, they looked like they were, it was sort of slanted. And they also said no Asians could vote. That wasn't true. People weren't banned for being Asians. They were not citizens. They didn't have the citizenship qualifications at the time. The other thing they didn't put in there is the fact that used to only landowners, that's the way it started, landowners could vote. So that meant that, and I still kind of don't like people voting taxes on me that don't have an investment in the land, but that's the way it is. So I mean, we need to be watching so that we're not getting into this idea of indoctrination. Most of this, our stuff is originally from California. And I thought, as a parent, because we talked at the dinner table about what had happened that day, which I don't know how much that happens now. Without having children, I don't know what these kids are hearing. I don't know what's being discussed. And I worry about us unintentionally getting it, which I'm sure, I wouldn't have thought if I'd gotten a stack of 30 little booklets to put out there with little stories, to not just put them out there and let them go, and as they go, I'd be learning what's in them, and wouldn't think a thing about it. But now you need to read these things before the students get them and see what's in them. And I just want to know, how do we monitor that?
Thank you, Ms. Brown. So the question for the next study session, I believe you would like to have the question answered. How do we monitor what's in
Right. I'd like Scott, just give me an idea. I'm not asking for a 1, 2, 3 and here's a test or whatever, So what is being done to kind of watch that indoctrination thing? Because this is going to second graders. I thought it was a little high subject for second graders to handle anyway, I don't know.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. We'll see about study session item on that. Study session items, Ms. Hayes.
Yes. I'm sure we probably will, and kind of what timeline we're on these summer camps. And we'll get a plan for that. I know that y'all are adding to the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours that you all work on things. But we'll get an update on what that's going to look like and the schedule. And yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hayes. Anything else on study session items? Seeing none, of course, anytime you have something, you can give Mr. Johnson a call, Dr. Phillips a call, give me a call, and we can help you with that. Moving on to comments from board members, I'm going to start on the far side over there this evening. Dr. David Wilkerson, do you have any comments tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate Senator Hale, Representative Garrett, and Representative Lambert coming out and acknowledging to us School Board of the Year. But what it actually says to me is throughout the county, we have a lot of the right people in the right places doing the right job. And it speaks highly of everyone from the janitors to the principals to the team here that help make our decisions much easier. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkerson. Mr. Gregory.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two things. I guess it was week before last, almost 2 weeks ago. I went to a TSBA meeting, and I enjoyed it much more than doing it online last year. It was not crowded. There was a total of, I think, 9 of us there. They intended to keep the numbers low, but I don't know if they wanted to keep them that low or not. There were 9 of us there. And it was a good session. It was really good. And with that many, just that many, even though there was a lot of dialogue, we did get out early. So that was good. I was expecting to see some of you there, but anyway, they are doing them this year at the TSBA office. And one other thing, yesterday, our state house had a really important vote, in my opinion. And that was a vote, and it was very one-sided too, 70-something to 14 or so, in favor of our female athletes. That was very, very good. I'll just stop at that, but it was in favor of our female athletes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Ms. Brown?
I have, I agree with all that's been said about, all we do really is, yes, and ask a few questions and vote. We don't do any of the work, so we're really getting credit that we don't deserve. And I don't think, Dr. Phillips, are you even listed as a member of the school board?
No, ma'am.
That's what I thought. I thought, here's our leader that has brought all this stuff to us, and you're not even a member of the school board. We could get a little sticker and put on the corner and put your picture on it.
That's all right.
So you can be included. But I thought, and that's kind of like the city government too. Paige is included in a lot of she gets all the grief from it, as she said, but I don't even have a vote unless they die. But the other thing, I want something that y'all will probably, and it's probably because I'm a visual learner, and I'm also a hoarder. I would like to have a bulletin board in here, a big one, on this wall since I sit here, or I don't care where it is, but it, like the plan for the school, that map, it would be handy to me. I don't want to haul it back and forth, and it's too big to fit in the tray, and I keep leaving stuff in the tray. But if I could put up there, I would like to have like the pay schedule for our teachers and our classified and whatever, just because I think that's general knowledge and should be. And you should be looking to say if a teacher starts out at 40,000 or whatever they start out at, because somebody asked me that and I didn't even know. And I thought, I need some information here. Number of students, that kind of, thing, just general information or special things we've got on building plans or whatever that are knowledge anybody can get. It's just that it would be nice to see it there, and then we could put the next one up and show or whatever. But I would like to have a bulletin board to keep me straight with a calendar on it. Because I still would like a calendar that shows monthly what's going on at each school, because it is very difficult to go through all the schools
We have that.
one at a time. And I thought y'all said you had it, and see if we could slap it up on the bulletin board when we're at a meeting. We'd just take a quick glance and see when we're available and when we can attend, because it's until COVID, and I'm just now getting where I'm getting in I've stayed away from the schools. I figured the schools had enough to handle with having to deal with another visitor. Is it good to go to the schools or not at this point?
Yeah, I mean, you can go.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Mr. Wise?
I cared about Rob.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Mr. Daniels?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, staff.
For all the work you've done this year. As we look back this time last year, we sent our kids home on spring break, and Dr. Phillips didn't let them come back. So this year, I know there's a lot of grateful parents out there that are glad our kids are back in the classroom. Unless we're at Union, we have that extra week that we're trying to manage with their kids. But I've been impressed with as Mr. Wise said earlier. Despite COVID, we've made a lot of strides in this district in things that we've been able to implement, whether it's the programs that Ms. Wall and Mr. Alexander talked about earlier, the CT program that we continue to refine and improve, that we've talked about the last couple of weeks, what Ms. Hessen's done with technology and trying to build out the curriculum and making it available online in years to come. Mr. Lankford and what he's doing with his instruction team, and everyone else that's been involved, whether it's with trying to make sure that we're meeting the needs of special needs students, whether they're in classrooms or virtual. There's just so many things that have been going on, and despite that, our teachers have continued to show up. They've continued to teach virtually when they had to, and as a staff, we've continued to grow and improve what we're offering our students and our teachers, and try to make this the best district that it possibly is. And it's great to be honored by the state. I think we've been the best district in the state for a long time. It's glad that people are finally opening their eyes and recognizing that. But I just think it's a compliment to our staff that we're taking a challenge and creating opportunities out of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Ms. Hawkins?
Well, I'd like to mirror that. that indeed, that Dr. Alexander and Christy Wall's programs and presentations just really lifted my spirits as far as the feeling that we're moving forward, and nothing's slowing us down, even COVID. There is just full steam ahead. And I want to echo several of you who have said that it's not us so much as it's the people who are making us look good. All the work that's been done and the innovation that is shown is very evident, and I just want to express my gratitude for that hard work. And also, I just wanted to compliment, whose idea was this? The medallion instead of a certificate. Is that you? I think that's a great idea. And just to have something you can hold in your hand as a symbol of achievement. I think that's a great idea. I really like it.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins. Mr. Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank our elected officials for coming and presenting us with that resolution. I look at that as not as a pat on the back, but as a promotional for other school systems throughout the state of what you can accomplish. Now, we haven't slowed up since any of those items that were listed on that resolution. Nobody has slowed up within this board, within this school system. So to me, it's a promotional campaign, not how good we are, but what you can achieve in this state. So I appreciate those elected officials for coming. The challenge coin was a crazy idea, and I'd like to thank Scott Langford and Christy Wall while they were preparing all this other stuff of importance, a little crazy idea they made happen. And part of that is I've got a number of these kind of challenge coins from different organizations. But when you get an athlete that comes in, for example, they leave here with a piece of paper. Who knows what happens to that piece of paper? An athlete that gets medals, this will get put up on the shelf somewhere. And they will look at this 20 years from now and remember why they came before this board. So it's special, and that's what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be special for those people in attendance, that they left with something that was real. So again, I want to thank Christy, specifically Christy Wall, for all of her hard work in that, and it's a wonderful thing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. Ms. Baumann.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think I can add much more than what has already been said this evening, and I agree with everything that you all have said. And I want to thank Dr. Alexander and Christy for their presentations tonight. Just like Ms. Hawkins said, it made us feel really good to see what we're moving forward, and we're doing some great things here. And we appreciate everything that you all have done. And I look forward to the briefing next study session about the summer camps, because I have a vested interest in that, my grandchildren. So thanks again for everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Baumann. Ms. Hayes.
I was thinking you were going, so I was just going down the line. I agree with my fellow board members. Just, I'm so appreciative of the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of work, diligent work, in leading this county in and through COVID and continuing to do so. It's very humbling to have our state representatives come, Senator Hale and William, I call them by their first names, and Johnny, but just appreciate them taking time to come. It is very humbling. You know, I don't think we were looking for any, I know we weren't looking for any kind of award or pat on the back at all. You know, we just had our nose to the grindstone and we're doing the work of school. And to be recognized is an honor, and we're very appreciative, and we will just keep at doing the work of school for our children, And thank you. I'm a little note, who do we thank you? This was in our box. Is this from you all? Thank you. Appreciate this little gift. And happy birthday, Ms. Baumann. Tomorrow is Alice's birthday. So happy birthday, Alice. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Happy birthday, Ms.
Thank
Baumann.
you.
I'm not going to echo, because there's always echoes, and I always think of cave. You just don't know what's going on in here sometimes, so let's pass that up. But I do want to thank everybody in the whole system. We have a wonderful system here, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. They are the ones that make us. We got the award, we get to hang it on the wall, but they're the ones that really did the work. And so we really, really thank you. We're really glad that the representatives came and presented it tonight. It was very nice of them. But I commend you guys, all of you, from Dr. Phillips all the way down to, and all the way back up. So, yes, they do need a round of applause. Yes, they do. And I do want to remind Mr. Wise that he is now indebted to the rest of the board members, because he said he wanted to be out of here by 7:30, and so we got him out of here a little bit early. And
may I say one quick thing? When I was at TSBA, our you know, Tammy, when she was here, said our picture would be on the wall. And it is. I saw it.
Good deal.
Can I add just one more thing?
I don't have a choice, do I?
I do want to, as a member of this board, I do want to offer our prayers and our condolences to the Langford family in the passing of Mrs. Langford. She meant a ton to White House schools. There are students that are now almost as old as Andy Daniels, who went through school when she was teaching there, and she made a huge impact on people. And we just want you to know that you're in our thoughts, you're in our prayers, and we express condolences to your family.
You know, I'll try to get us out by 7:30, but I just want to say, you know, first off, thanks to everybody for your notes and texts and cards and everything. It meant a lot. And, you know, what we're doing here, you know, my mom was a 4th grade teacher and a 6th grade teacher. And she loved Sumner County, but every day was a struggle because she did not have the support. You know, the school board did the best they could, but, you know, to see where we are now, as a county, it highlights the leadership that we have at the very top and the work that y'all do. And it really reinforces, you know, what we recognized tonight as the School Board of the Year. But, you know, when I think about the way she graded papers till 10 o'clock every night and got up every morning and loved nothing more than teaching world history to 6th graders and making a difference in kids' lives, like, she loved where we are, and that's a direct reflection on your leadership. So thank you for the notes and cards, but also thank you for carrying forward to another generation of kids, you know, what's most important and most deeply entrusted to us. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Langford. I think that's all. So we are officially adjourned.
Good job.